Hey guys, it's History Behind the Warrior and welcome to another History of Mortal Kombat video. In today's discussion, I'll be doing a remastered version of my History of Sub-Zero video. A video that is unfortunately horribly outdated and is nearly 4 years old, so it definitely needed an update. Now I must say for this video, I will strictly be focusing on the Sub-Zero character. I'm well aware that there have been in fact 2 individuals to don this mantle in both timelines, but in order for me to tell you the history of Sub-Zero, I'm gonna have to focus strictly on the character. Not saying that you won't have a little bit of noob Cybot sprinkled in here, but rest assured he will get his own video in due time, especially if he gets revealed for the Mortal Kombat 11 roster anytime soon. Anyway, without any further ado, let's get on with remastering the history of Sub-Zero, pre-Mortal Kombat. Now before I start talking about Bi-Han or Kuai Lang, let's actually talk about their origin, as it is in fact extremely interesting and goes to show just how ruthless the Lin Kuei are. Now in their original origin, Kuai Lang and Bi-Han are in fact half Chinese and half American. You see, the Grand Master had sent off one of his operatives to meet a woman and have a family with them. Once the children were at a specific age, the Lin Kuei operative would take the children from the mother and bring them back to China, teaching them within the Lin Kuei. Now for any of you that are kind of unfamiliar with the Lin Kuei, they are an assassin-based organization that operate within China. They've been widely considered by many to be the most feared assassins in the world, with their only rivals being the Shirai Ryu. Now Bi-Han and Kuai Lang were raised within the Lin Kuei. They were born from the very beginning to be assassins. Because of their father's attributes, they grew up with cryomancer properties, so they were very talented in forging ice and snow from their fingertips. Now as the two grew up, there was certainly a difference and somewhat rift between the brothers. Bi-Han was known for his extremely cold demeanor and in many ways for being professional in his field. However, his younger brother Kuai Lang, who would later pick up the name Tundra, was a bit more compassionate than his brother, and unlike Bi-Han, wouldn't kill someone unless it was part of his mission or if it was necessary. Now despite the slight age gap, they were extremely talented as cryomancers, but due to Bi-Han's older age and experience, he was seen by many as the superior brother, and later down the line, he would even be seen by the Grand Master as the finest warrior the Lin Kuei had produced, even surpassing his own son, Sektor. Now because of this, Bi-Han earned jobs that many of the Lin Kuei weren't normally given, and one of these missions was personally handed to him by the Grand Master, and that was to track down the Scroll of Elements, as they had been hired by a sorcerer known as Quan Chi, as that individual was interested about the contents within. Now without a second thought, Sub-Zero would travel out to the Shaolin Temple in order to acquire it, and he was successful. However, it wasn't exactly a very clean journey. Whilst exploring the temple, he came face to face with the legendary Japanese ninja, Hanzo Hasashi. Now the two battled it out, and unfortunately Hanzo did come up short and was killed by Bi-Han. Now upon bringing the scroll back, he would be sent off on the second part of his mission, as he was now given the order to track down a sacred amulet and to bring it to Quan Chi. Now on his journey, he would battle different elemental guardians, but no one was strong enough to defeat Bi-Han. Now just as he was about to claim the amulet, Quan Chi would appear before him and would reveal to him that this amulet in fact belonged to Shinnok, a fallen and dark elder god. By Sub-Zero acquiring the Scroll of Elements and defeating these different elemental guardians, he had more or less handed over this amulet to Quan Chi. Now before Sub-Zero could react, the necromancer would mysteriously disappear, and it's here where he would be confronted by the thunder god Raiden. Now understandably, he was extremely unhappy with what Sub-Zero had done, but was aware of the situation before him, so Raiden would give him the job of recovering the amulet in order to redeem his name and his clan. So Sub-Zero would travel across the Netherrealm, killing Netherrealm demons, and even defeating Quan Chi's personal henchmen, but did in fact spare one of them, who was, fun fact by the way, Serena. Now during the end sequence of Mortal Kombat Mythologies Sub-Zero, Bi-Han comes face to face with Hanzo once more, but this time Hanzo Hasashi has now taken on the name Scorpion, as after his death, and seemingly the demise of the Shirai Ryu, he became a servant of Quan Chi, apparently also being told by the sorcerer that he was leading the charge against his clan. So the two would battle, and Bi-Han was once again the victor. Eventually Bi-Han was successful in tracking down Quan Chi, and defeated him with a little bit of assistance from Serena. Now she begged Bi-Han to help save her. She didn't want to be cast in the Netherrealm for the rest of eternity, but before they could do anything, she would be struck down by Shinnok. Angered by this long and bizarre journey, Sub-Zero would use all of the tools in his arsenal to grab the amulet of Shinnok and get away from the fallen elder god. With the assistance of Raiden, he was able to go through a portal and return the amulet amulet back to the god. Now after the events of Mythologies, Bi-Han began to ponder to himself something that Quan Chi had told him. You see, unlike most Earthrealmers, Sub-Zero was able to stay within the Netherrealm for a very long amount of time. Normally the exposure to this realm for too long could damage and corrupt one's soul, but Quan Chi said that at his very core, he was nothing but an evil and ruthless assassin, and those words did not sit well with Bi-Han. Mortal Kombat. Now once Bi-Han returned back to the Lin Kuei, he was informed by the Grand Master that he was chosen to participate in the next Mortal Kombat tournament. He was even handpicked by Shang Tsung himself. Now as flattering as this might be, Bi-Han saw this as the perfect opportunity to complete a contract that they had been given, and that was to kill Shang Tsung. So Bi-Han would travel to Shang Tsung's island to represent the Lin Kuei. However, things clearly didn't pan out the way that he had wanted. During the end of the tournament, after Shang Tsung and Goro were defeated by Liu Kang, the island began to crumble and fall apart, and it was here where Sub-Zero was once again confronted by Scorpion. The two would battle each other, and it seems like Bi-Han's luck had finally run out. This would be the death of the first Sub-Zero, slain at the hands of Scorpion. Mortal Kombat 2. Now after this had happened, his younger brother Kuai Lang would catch word of this and was understandably outraged. Learning that it was in fact Scorpion, Kuai Lang would take on Bi-Han's training routine in order to prep himself for tracking down his brother's killer. It was only until he himself became happy with his status, of which he dropped his codename Tundra for his older brother's name Sub-Zero. So he would be the second individual in the Mortal Kombat universe to don the Sub-Zero mantle. Now fortunately for Kuai Lang, he would catch word that Shao Kahn was announcing a second Mortal Kombat tournament, and the Lin Kuei needed someone to represent them. So he, alongside his close friend Smoke, would enter. Now the details about who Sub-Zero fought during this tournament are actually scarce at best. However, we do know at some point he fought an Outworlder and did win. Now despite his brother's cold-hearted reputation, Sub-Zero actually spared his opponent and continued participating in the tournament, still looking for Scorpion. Now by the end of the second tournament, the pair were unsuccessful in tracking him down, so the pair decided to return back to the Lin Kuei. Mortal Kombat 3. Now unfortunately, when they returned, they learned that the Grandmaster would be moving forward with something known as the Cyber Initiative. The Grandmaster believed that they needed to adapt to this modern age, and that was by becoming heartless machines that could complete their task without any remorse or second thoughts. The first 4 individuals to be selected were Cyrax, Sektor, Smoke, and Sub-Zero. None of these individuals were particularly too happy except for the Grandmaster's son, Sektor. Cyrax himself was forced to become a cyborg, and Smoke and Sub-Zero would run away from the Lin Kuei. Now unfortunately on their journey, Smoke was captured. Now out of sheer luck, Sub-Zero came across Raiden and told him about their situation. Now Raiden would rescue him if he would help defend the realm against Shao Kahn, as the Emperor was angered at his loss at the second tournament and wanted to forcibly take the realm by himself. Now whilst these two realms were battling it out, Sub-Zero was forced to go face to face with his former brothers, taking on the likes of Sektor, Cyrax, and Smoke. Now luckily during this conflict, Sub-Zero was in fact able to reach out to his friend Smoke and override the Lin Kuei's programming. So for a while, Smoke was able to return back to his somewhat human self, and when the two were confronted by a cybernetic Sektor and Cyrax, the two were able to defeat them, but sadly this victory wouldn't mean too much. Now eventually Sub-Zero returned back to Earthrealm, but once again Smoke wasn't as fortunate, as he was captured by Shao Kahn's forces and was deactivated and stored under Shao Kahn's fortress. Now during the climax of the third game, Shao Kahn is defeated once more, and Earthrealm is returned back to its normal state. However, the peace wouldn't exactly last long. Mortal Kombat 4. Now during the events of the fourth game, after Shao Kahn was defeated, the fallen Elder God Shinnok would spring a surprise attack across the realms. Along with the Brotherhood of Shadow, it was an attack that no one could have anticipated, so understandably with his home being attacked, Sub-Zero would once again join Raiden's side. But here are where things get interesting. During the invasion and conflict that ensued, Sub-Zero would be blindsided by Scorpion, and Sub-Zero was quite confused and shocked at this point, as Hanzo had been out of his crosshairs for a very long amount of time. It was only upon Kuai Lang's defeat, of which he learned from Hanzo, that he was apparently responsible for killing Hanzo's family. Now understandably shocked and confused, he denied the claim presented before him, and said he had nothing to do with his family or clan at all before he did pass out. Now when he woke up from being unconscious, he was surprised that he was still alive, and he was extremely confused about what exactly had just transpired here. Now if you're really confused about what exactly has happened, I want to first point you towards my History of Scorpion video, as I do go into more detail there, but just to give you a quick summary here, after Scorpion defeated Sub-Zero, he learnt from his own master Quan Chi that he had in fact been the murderer the entire time. He had been playing Bi-Han and Hanzo against each other for his own amusement. On top of this, if any of them were to die, he would take this opportunity to enslave them under his will, as they were extremely proficient fighters and could significantly benefit him whenever he needed assistance. Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance. Now, after surviving his battle with Scorpion, Sub-Zero decided to travel to the Lin Kuei Temple in order to stop the Grand Master, and much to his shock when he arrived there, he found out that Sektor was now the new Grand Master. He had killed his father for his position and wanted to run the Lin Kuei his own way. Now, Sub-Zero did challenge him for his position and was successful in defeating him, but before he could kill the Crimson Cyborg, he fled. Now, upon acquiring the title of Grand Master, he'd be given a sacred item known as the Dragon Medallion. Now, the medallion had mystical properties attached to it. By him actually wielding it, it was able to amplify his strength and his powers, giving him new abilities that he never had before. Now, once he asserted his position, he decided to move the Lin Kuei from China to the Antarctic, and from here on out would recruit new individuals into the Lin Kuei headquarters, discarding any cyborgs they previously had. Now, in order to determine the hierarchy and strength of different fighters, he would hold a tournament, and the victor would be none other than another cryomancer known as Frost. Now, impressed by her strength and potential, he would take her on as an apprentice, and the more the two trained together, the more that Kuai Lang realized how much potential she had. However, despite this, there was one massive glaring problem with Frost, and that was her attitude. You see, unlike Sub-Zero, who was level-headed and disciplined, Frost was extremely brash and arrogant, acting more so in her emotions than her actual thoughts. So this led to a lot of friction between the two, especially when he introduced her to his allies. Now, upon learning about Liu Kang's death at the hands of the Deadly Alliance, Sub-Zero and Frost would travel across the realms in order to track them down. But during their journey, Frost would in fact turn against her master, striking him down and attempting to take the Dragon Medallion for herself. However, the power of the medallion proved to be far too much for her to control, and because of this, she seemingly froze to death. Mortal Kombat Deception. Now, heartbroken over Frost's death, he would find a sarcophagus to put her in. Now, it's here where he came across a bunch of Outworlders that were able to also manipulate the cold. Shocked to see other individuals with the ability to manipulate ice, he would examine and study their techniques, eventually coming to the distinction that he and Frost were descendants. Now, on his journey back, Sub-Zero came across one of his wounded allies, Ken Shi. After saving his life, he would be informed that Raiden and his forces had failed to stop the Deadly Alliance. So the two would band together in the hopes of being able to track down this new enemy that had surfaced, Onaga. And whilst on their journey, they were attacked by an individual known as Hotaru. Now, Sub-Zero was temporarily blinded in this fight, but of the assistance of Ken Shi, the two were able to walk away. Now, whilst Kuai Lang ventured through Outworld, he came across a woman known as Serena. She informed him that she was an old friend of Bi-Han's and that she knew about the existence of his brother. Surprised to hear that Bi-Han was still alive, Serena and Sub-Zero would travel to the Netherrealm together in order to track him down and find him. Now, in a way, they were indeed successful, but it didn't go in quite the way that Kuai Lang had imagined. When he found Bi-Han, he was with the cybernetic unit Smoke, and before he could have a proper conversation with Bi-Han, his older brother and best friend would attack him. He was immediately overpowered as he was underprepared, and it was only until Serena had jumped in and was forced to revert to a demonic form, to which Sub-Zero survived. Now, upon waking up, the first thing he saw was a demon, so he immediately attacked without actually realizing that it was Serena. So after these crazy events, he would return back to the Lin Kuei Temple. However, when he arrived there, he saw that Frost was still alive and had seemingly gone insane, attacking and killing many members of the clan in his absence. Now, Kuai Lang couldn't allow something like this to pass, and froze her in a solid block of ice, hiding her away deep within the temple. Mortal Kombat Armageddon. Now, during the events of Armageddon's conquest mode, a child of Argus, Taven, would come across the Lin Kuei Temple, as he was on a quest to stop the end of days, but needed to acquire items in order to do so. So on his quest, he needed to go to the Lin Kuei Temple to pick up a gift left by his mother. Now, Sub-Zero said that he could have this item if he bested him in combat, but before a true victor could be determined, the temple would be attacked by Noob, Saibot, and Smoke. The two would lead a massive siege on the Lin Kuei temple, turning many of the Lin Kuei's own warriors into brainless cybernetic demons. Now during the battle, Sub-Zero was defeated by his older brother, but before Noob Saibot could do anything, he would be challenged by Taven, who would also defeat him. Now after Bi-Han's defeat, Kuai Lang would attempt to take this opportunity to cleanse his brother's soul, as he'd been corrupted under Quan Chi's service and his soul was tainted by the dark magic of the Netherrealm. Now the details about this are scarce at best, because the next time we do see Bi-Han and Kuai Lang, it's during the Battle of Armageddon, where Sub-Zero is on the forces of light and Noob is on the forces of darkness. So it's quite safe to say that Kuai Lang wasn't entirely successful in cleansing his brother's soul. Now since this is Mortal Kombat Armageddon, we know that at the very end of the battle, no one survives except Raiden and Shao Kahn, and this perfectly sets up the reboot in Mortal Kombat 9. Now from what you can tell, I am obviously ignoring the existence of MKvsDC, and that is because it doesn't really exist in the main canon. It's really odd as it exists in its own timeline, so for the purposes of keeping this video rather accurate to the main continuity, I'm going to exclude that game. Mortal Kombat 9. Now for the most part, there are a lot of similarities with Sub-Zero in this timeline and the original timeline. The one key difference is actually within their origin. You see, unlike the original timeline, Bi-Han and Kuai Lang were just kidnapped as children by the Lin Kuei and were raised within their facility, so it is slightly altered. Now although it isn't entirely explained, it has been hinted at in a few different occasions that Mortal Kombat Mythologies Sub-Zero happened in this timeline as well. However, the changes we do know that happened is that Bi-Han wasn't only framed for killing Scorpion's clan, but was also the one responsible for slaying his family. So the rivalry between Scorpion and Sub-Zero is still the same, only with minor details changed. Now during the opening segment of MK9, Sub-Zero doesn't really play a huge part in the main story. He serves to be an obstacle against Sonya Blade when she's looking for Jax, but does play a significant role when we get to the Scorpion chapter, as understandably he still wants vengeance against his family's killer. Now after Scorpion defeats Cyrax and Sektor, he would be directly confronted by Bi-Han. Now out of disgust and rage, Scorpion would drag Bi-Han to the Netherrealm and the two would battle it out, with Scorpion in fact being the victor. Now Hanzo is actually hesitant for a few seconds about killing him, but once Quan Chi shows him the visions of Bi-Han killing his family, Scorpion snaps and Bi-Han is killed, being left as nothing more than a skull with a spine attached. Now it's during the MK2 section of MK9 where we are introduced to the second Sub-Zero, Kuai Lang. He's taken on Bi-Han's mantle and persona. They hope to track down Scorpion and make him pay for his crime. Now in order to cover more ground, the two do decide to split up. Now whilst exploring Outworld, Kuai Lang is now forced to fight his cybernetic brother Cyrax. As you see, the Cyber Initiative begins much earlier here than the original timeline. Now Sub-Zero is able to defeat Cyrax, and upon his defeat he meets Jax and Sonya Blade, who mention they are surprised to see him alive. So when Kuai Lang puts the pieces together and learns that Bi-Han might have been friends with these individuals, he attempts to question them about Scorpion's whereabouts. But before they have a proper conversation, Ermac appears and crushes Jax's arms, so it does lead to him battling Ermac. Now after this, he does end up before Shao Kahn and demands that he brings before him Scorpion. Now the Khan immediately denies his request and instead sets him up against Reptile, but Reptile proves to be no problem for him. So finally Shao Kahn gives him what he wants, and Sub-Zero comes face to face with his brother's killer. Now understandably, Scorpion is confused and dazed how there is another Sub-Zero, since he killed the original with his bare hands. It's here where Kuai Lang reveals his identity and says that he's come to restore his brother's honor. Now the two do battle, with Kuai Lang actually being victorious, but before he's able to deal the finishing blow, he would be attacked by the Cyber Lin Kuei. As Cyrax and Sektor are now seeking out members of the clan to forcibly make them go through the Cyber Initiative. Now Kuai Lang does resurface during the Mortal Kombat 3 section of the game. However, as expected, he has now become a cyborg. Now the cybernetic Sub-Zero is defeated by Cabal, and after Cabal comes face to face with Raiden, Smoke immediately recognizes who the blue cyborg is. Now Smoke takes his body back to the Earthrealm Defenders headquarters, and together they're able to free him of the Lin Kuei's influence, in which he's able to gain his free will once more. Now after doing this, he would secretly go behind enemy lines in hopes of finding out more about what exactly was going on with Shao Kahn. But before he can learn anything more than he does, Sektor tells him that he knows something's off with him. Now as Sektor attempts to check Sub-Zero's hardware, he is struck down by the cyborg and is defeated. And this is the first step of Sub-Zero being able to reclaim his own free will. From this point onwards, he's able to free some soldiers and defeat the likes of Kintaro, Goro, and even Ermac. Now upon saving the soldiers, he learns that Quan Chi is attempting to conjure a Soulnado, so he would travel to Quan Chi's location, only to come face to face with Quan Chi's new revenant, Noob Saibot. Noob says that he disgraces those colors, and it's during this conversation where Noob reveals to Kuai Lang that he's in fact Bi-Han. Now Kuai Lang's understandably conflicted about this, and wants them to be on the same side, but Bi-Han is satisfied with his current position, and says that this is who he is. So the two brothers do fight, with Kuai Lang being victorious. However, he cannot stay around, as he's unsuccessful in stopping the Soulnado, so he does return back to the Earthrealm defenders. Now after a surprise attack is sprung on them by the Lin Kuei, a Shang Tsung infused Sindel would attack them and kill many of the Earthrealm warriors, with Sub-Zero being one of the casualties. Now he does appear one chapter later, but he's now also a revenant of Quan Chi. Now we do find out during the MKX comic book series that Quan Chi despised his cybernetic form. So before Quan Chi and Shinnok sprung their attack across the realms, Quan Chi would strip Kuai Lang of his cybernetic augmentations and have him form a new human body, which is why at the beginning of MKX he is in a human form once more. Now after the events of MK9 and Shao Kahn is defeated by Raiden, Shinnok and Quan Chi would spring their attack across Earthrealm, causing multiple casualties, with Sub-Zero and Scorpion working alongside each other, killing some of Earthrealm's soldiers. He even battles it out against Johnny Cage, but is defeated by the movie star. Now it's not long after his defeat, where Shinnok is also defeated by Johnny Cage, and he's imprisoned within his own amulet. Now because of this, Quan Chi returns back to his fortress in order to start planning for a new rescue mission for Shinnok. But when he arrives at his fortress, Sub-Zero, Jax, Scorpion and Quan Chi are greeted by the special forces, with Sonya Blade and Johnny Cage leading the charge. Now it's a very brutal battle, with many soldiers being killed in the fray, and Johnny Cage is nearly turned into a revenant. It's only until Raiden interferes, and Sonya Blade is able to break Quan Chi's influence, of which the revenants are turned back to their normal human forms. Now when Kuai Lang regains his humanity, he feels a lot of guilt from the time he had under Quan Chi, and is at this point seeking redemption. So Raiden gives him the chance and opportunity to redeem himself, as during the MKX comic book series, there are a bunch of Kamidogu daggers with extremely powerful blood magic properties tied to them. By cutting yourself with these daggers, you are in fact able to acquire the power to that of a god. So Sub-Zero was given the opportunity to retrieve one of these daggers. However, when he got to the facility, he would be ambushed by Kano, who would cut him over the eye with one of the daggers. Now because of this, it would in fact corrupt Sub-Zero, and somewhat taint his soul with the godlike power that the blade had. Now Kuai Lang was able to fight back, and was able to collect the dagger, but whilst on his journey back, he would be ambushed by what could only be described as a small army of automated Lin Kuei cyborgs. Now with nowhere to run, Kuai Lang would be forced to use the dagger in order to help him survive. However, by actually doing this, he lost complete control of his body, and he would mysteriously disappear for the next few days. It's only until Raiden ordered Hanzo to find him, for which Kuai Lang resurfaced. Now the two have an extremely fierce battle, and for the most part he's strong enough to overpower both Hanzo and his student Takeda. The dark entity in his mind forces Hanzo to relive the pain he had felt when his family was killed, but during his fight he's able to snap back into control. Now unfortunately for him, during this time, Kuai Lang is confused with the current situation. He doesn't really know why he's fighting Scorpion except to protect himself, but eventually he is overpowered by him and is nearly killed. That is, at least until Takeda is able to convince him to not do it. Now Kuai Lang's injuries are severe, and he does pass out, but fortunately for him, he is saved by one Bo Rai Cho. Now Bo Rai Cho nurses him back to health, and does actually train under the Drunken Master. Still feeling guilt about what he did, they finally decide that the best way that Kuai Lang can redeem himself is by first saving the Lin Kuei. So with a flash drive given to them by Kung Jin, Kuai Lang would set out to the outskirts of China in order to track down the new Lin Kuei headquarters. Now whilst there, he's in fact overpowered by the cyborgs, but not before he's able to tamper with their mainframe with the USB drive that was given to them by Kung Jin. Now Sektor wishes to put Kuai Lang through the cybernetic process once again, but luckily for him, Cyrax turns against Sektor, and the two battle the rest of the Lin Kuei. As you see, Cyrax was freed of Sektor's control because of Sub-Zero tampering with the mainframe, so together they would fight Sektor and his forces, and Sub-Zero would be successful in killing the Crimson Cyborg. Now what's very interesting here is that despite killing their leader, the title of Grand Master in fact goes to Cyrax, as he was always second in command of the Cyber Lin Kuei. Now in a private one-on-one conversation, Cyrax tells him that he doesn't want to live like this, and that he doesn't want the Lin Kuei to be remembered as a bunch of cyborgs. So as a way of giving Kuai Lang a clean slate, he would initiate a self-destruct sequence that would lead to his demise as well as many other cyborgs. So this is where he would become head of the Lin Kuei. Now much like the original timeline, Kuai Lang would form a new Lin Kuei in the Antarctic, setting up a new temple and dojo. And it's here where dozens of people would gather in order to learn under Kuai Lang, including the likes of Frost. Now after taking on the role of Grand Master, he would invite Hanzo Hasashi to his temple, as he learnt the truth about Scorpion's family from the destroyed head of Sektor he had in his ownership. And seeing that now Hanzo had revived the Shirai Ryu and was also moving on from his time under Quan Chi, Kuai Lang understandably wanted to make amends, much to his protege's dismay. You see, whilst Hanzo and Kuai Lang were attempting to make peace, Frost would intervene and spark a fight between the two. It was only until Kuai Lang was forced to freeze Frost, to which he was able to show Hanzo the truth, and that it was Quan Chi and Sektor conspiring together that led to the demise of the Shirai Ryu. And like that, peace is made between the two fighters. Now Sub-Zero does appear later down the line, where he's doing a training exercise with the Special Forces in order to teach a new generation what teamwork should actually be. So this leads to him battling the new generation and defeating them all, as it seems like they're too busy bickering amongst themselves than actually forming a proper plan. Now Sub-Zero does disappear once again, only to resurface during the end of Mortal Kombat X, where after peace has seemingly gone out the window between Outworld and the Special Forces, he intervenes with the Lin Kuei and saves the new generation of characters. And this is in fact the last time we actually see Sub-Zero in the Mortal Kombat universe. Nothing at all was actually said about him during the epilogue of the game, and even in his arcade ladder endings, he just seemingly finds dragons. So there's not too much information to get an idea of what he's doing after Mortal Kombat X. So we must wait and see when Mortal Kombat 11 comes out. But yes, that is actually it for the history of Sub-Zero. I hope you've enjoyed this video, guys. This video is way longer than I had anticipated, so I really do hope you enjoy it. I can tell editing this is going to be a nightmare. I do want to say I hope you're enjoying these remasters, as I did decide to go back and watch my Scorpion one and my Sub-Zero one, and wow, they are terrible. So I'm hoping you are enjoying these and learning more by watching them, as they are considerably longer than the original. Now because these videos take a very long amount of time, I don't want to get burnt out on them too soon, so I'm going to give myself a break for next week's episode, but also give myself proper prep time for the next video. I hope you guys understand, but I really don't want to get burnt out on doing this, and I want to give you all the best of my ability. Now as for the next episode, I'm not too sure who I want to talk about next. I'm torn between doing Sonya Blade, as I actually already have made the thumbnail for her, or maybe the female character that will be revealed next week on the Combat Cast. I'm not too sure just yet, it's all up in the air, so down in the comments below guys, throw some suggestions my way. Anyway, that's it for this video guys. Now if possible guys, let's try getting this video to about 500 likes. It's a great way of supporting this channel since YouTube's ad system is broken as hell. So by giving it a thumbs up, it helps out a ton, and also don't forget to tick that bell, as it will notify you about when I upload a video on YouTube, since YouTube always has problems with my videos not appearing in your sub boxes right now. So by doing so, it will help me out and most certainly help you out. Now as always guys, please comment, like, subscribe and share this video with everyone you know. Please take care and I'll see you all